listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is the AwardsWatch Podcast, episode 182. I'm your executive editor, Ryan McQuade, and joining me today is our television editor, Tyler Doster.
Hello.
And AwardsWatch team member, Sophia Ciminello.
Hello.
We are here this weekend to not talk about any Marvel films. We did that last week. Thank God that's over and done with. No more comic book movies this weekend, though. Actually, to be fair, there was news that the drop for at the box office wise for Guardians of the Galaxy didn't look as bad as we thought. So looks like that movie's still going to probably make around $600 to $800 million worldwide. So it'll make exactly what a Marvel movie makes. But there was a different event that happened this weekend. It was the new chapter in a different franchise, the book club franchise. And inspired by that, we are going to do our top 5 romantic comedies. We have not done that before, so it just feels like the right time to do it. Nice, easy breezy topic for us to talk about today, and then we'll get out of here. It'll be kind of a shorter podcast today. But Sophia, you did see Booksmart, the next chapter, right? Is that's or a book club?
I'm sorry, club.
I keep calling it Booksmart for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's
directed by Bill Holderman, not Olivia Wilde.
There you go. But book club, the next chapter, bringing back all of our favorites and some new favorites along the way. You wrote the review up on the website. Sophia, I just kind of want to point out, has been writing a lot of the how would you describe this sort of genre that we've been getting over the last couple of years, Sophia?
It really is my niche. It's actresses over a certain age who decide to take a girls' trip together, go on some sort of adventure. You know, I wrote the 80 for Brady review. I wrote Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. So it's really about these women like over 60 finding themselves. And I personally love this genre so much. I really tend to identify with them. Honestly, I act like a 75-year-old. So it really is one of my favorites. And book club, the next chapter, I do have to say I don't know. I feel like it's sort of underutilizing the talents that we have here of Jane Fonda, Diane Keaton, Candice Bergen, Mary Steenburgen. They're all wonderful. And there are some really funny moments, but overall, not my favorite movie of the year. It feels, I think, sort of like they wanted to go to Italy and the movie was the excuse to get there. That was very much how it felt. But it was a nice time. You get to see, so they go to Italy for Jane Fonda's character, Vivian, her bachelorette party.
With the wig.
That is
the wig, yes, mind you. The
wig. She doesn't have a trunk of wigs like she did in 80 for Brady.
But she's got something working in this thing.
She sure does. And they are all great. They're so funny. I mean, Candice Bergen stole the show for me just with her one-liners, her zingers. Diane Keaton, my real mother, is amazing. She wears a turtleneck wedding dress, which I mean,
you've got to get that.
I gotta get it. And Mary Steenburgen wrote a song for the movie that is eligible for an Oscar, I believe, for Best Original Song.
Wait, so
and
Mary
they all
Steenburgen's
sing it at the end. Yeah.
She's going to go up against Diane Warren?
Yeah, so Jane Fonda technically has two films already with eligible original songs.
Wow.
So, yeah, but it's fun. They go to Italy. It's just like it's an easy, like, feel good comedy that, you know, it doesn't utilize the actresses as well as it could, but it's not a bad time. It's not a bad use of an hour and 45 minutes or however long it is. It goes by really quickly.
Andy Garcia, right?
He's back.
Don Johnson,
Craig T. Nelson.
And
so
Candy have a guy or
she has, when she goes to Italy, she meets a man there who wants to really show her a great time while she's in Italy. So that's really fun and has some funny scenes tied to it. And then Mary Steenburgen's character she actually meets a guy there who she went to culinary school with, who was sort of her first love before
Sounds
her
very
husband.
Sex and the City kind of.
Yeah, it's similar to the Sex and the City movie of like how the comedy, and it's a little feels, I don't know, it's silly, but it's a good time.
No, I would just like to chime in real quick and say that she said this like she didn't already own it. I would like for listeners to understand that Sophia is actually sitting here in a turtleneck dress right now. Live.
She's got gloves too.
You guys might not can see it. She is wearing the gloves with the acrylics over it, a la Glenn Close, Cruella de Vil.
Oh my god!
I just thought it was so important for everybody to understand that's what we are looking at.
Wow.
So
she actually wrote the review in the dress, which is very method.
I did. Yeah. No,
like some Jeremy Strong level stuff going on over here.
It was actually what Faye Dunaway wears in Mommy Dearest when she has the turban on and like this satin silk robe, and she's just like putting lotion all over her hands.
Oxford commas.
That's amazing. Perfect. That's what I was wearing.
It's a great review. You should go read it. It's up on the website right now. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into it. Yeah, how did it do at the box office? Do we know?
Not too well. It really didn't. But I think, having Guardians there
right?
I think 80 for Brady kind of took some of its thunder, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens today at the box office since it's Mother's Day, but it didn't do too well from what I saw initially.
I feel like nobody marketed it. Like it was
so. It's weirdly everywhere here. Like whenever I get off the train, I see a poster or
we talk about this though.
Videos of Diane, which makes me excited.
We talk about this though.
New York's not the world, like we think.
Not the world like we think. Or if someone that's like somebody in LA. Well, it's everywhere here. Well, yeah, duh. It's got to be there. You know what I mean? So.
Well, and I mean, Book Club, The Next Chapter is a movie that I know. Like my mom will watch for sure when it's on Paramount Plus or Peacock or wherever it goes, but she's not necessarily going to go to the theater to see it.
Yeah, it's got to be on Peacock. That feels like
it feels
like
right
home for those movies. Yeah, Hulu Plus now, I guess. That's what we'll be having. But the Disney Hulu. Tyler, can I ask you a real quick question before we get into this?
You're
our TV guy around here as well.
Yeah.
Too. So this Hulu Disney Plus thing that happened this week, they're talking about that's finally going to happen, that we've kind of all figured was going to happen initially, right?
Right.
Worth it down the road then, or just like, does it make you want to like just get rid of Hulu then at that point? If it's going to be merged with Disney Plus, but then less content that we have, assume it's also going to start like taking away network shows or stuff, maybe, and I guess then
that's kind of what I'm wondering too. I mean, as long as Abbott Elementary is coming on Hulu, I will have Hulu. Okay.
As long
but it is weird. I mean, all these mergers, it is getting to the point where you're like, okay, what streaming service will I have by the end of the year? What will it be called? What will have merged? What shows will have made it? How will the rights go up in the air? I mean, there's just so much at this point to think about when it comes to television. And all these mergers I know most people don't want to deal with, probably in the sense that whenever they get these emails this month that I'm getting from HBO saying that they're about to change to Max, which Ryan scolded me for in a text message the other day. But
I hate Max. It's so stupid. It's the stupidest thing ever. I hate it. It's also a terrible name. Just fuck it all. Anyway, continue. Sorry, Tom.
It's weird. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. I really don't like looking too far ahead without knowing exactly what I'm looking at. So until I have a concrete vision of what they're doing and until they're really telling us exactly what this will look like, I guess I won't have too much to say other than I hope that it can only make things better, in the sense that we're not going to be streamlining just mass amounts of content like Netflix does.
Well, I feel like now, I know this is getting off topic from our main topic, and I'll get there here in a second. Sorry, folks. Sophia's like, you better hurry it up, dude. But like, no, I just feel like, the whole point of these streaming services was to sort of almost get to the idea of cutting the cord, essentially, from cable services. Now I feel like with Max, the Hulu Plus deal, Paramount Plus Peacock, aka the Cock, and then all these other things as well. Like, you're adding it up to a $70-$80 deal. Plus, if you wanted to get regular live TV from YouTube TV, that's like $50-$60, right? So there's no, they're all gonna get you some way. But anyway, yeah. That being
this has
said,
been an Awards Watch lightning round
of just television stuff. But yes, Book Club 2 will probably be available on one of these streaming platforms. You have to pay $16.99 a month in order to see. Do you guys own all those platforms? I don't own them all. I'm just
I do.
I know you do.
Like, I have to.
I have quite a few of them. And I mean, I really do. Like, between, I don't know, and like some I have like friends' passwords and things like that.
Tyler knows what I
share
do.
them, so it's hard. But yeah, I pretty much have everything.
Me too. I started AMC Plus, but Interview with a Vampire was so bad that I canceled it.
Yeah, no, Eric loves that show, so he's gonna love to hear that.
Yeah, that was for Eric.
I know you it was. But also too,
for Eric.
I do the thing, and I don't know if you guys do it, and everybody should do it out there. Just wait for the whole season, if it's week by week, to come out. Buy 1 month, binge it, and then cancel. Yeah. Then you give yourself a month. Then you give yourself a month to watch it, and if you didn't, then the show really wasn't worth it. Looking at you, Yellow Jackets.
No, but maybe if you watch it week to week, you can percolate on it for the next 6 days. Every time you watch an episode, you can think about it.
That's more money I'm giving them. No, they don't deserve that money. Anyway.
You sit down and watch 3.5-hour movies. You can wait a week.
I do. And those,
you can wait a week.
Those mostly earn them. They earn them.
That's why I love a movie, because you can just sit there and then
watch it one time, and then you never have to come back again to this. You don't have to stream it again. You don't have to watch it again, or you can find ways to watch it as many times as you want again. It's perfect.
I will say I am that person. I will bitch about the length of a movie, and I will sit and
give me 12-hour episodes
for 14 hours in one day. Like, I watched my Crown review last year. I watched like 8 hours in one day. It was exhausting. I loved it.
Speaking of movies, though, that aren't 3.5 hours long, romantic comedies. They're usually a good 1.5 to 2 hours long. So let's get into our top 5 for this week, which is top 5 romantic comedies. Sophia, I'm going to kick it off to you first for number 5. Also, just for any of our listeners out there, as we do this list, we do our top 5s 5 to 1. And if there is a movie that is on everybody else's list, we do that movie all at the same time. Doesn't matter if it's our number 1. It's just to save time, just to let everybody know how it works here on the show. If this is your first time listening. So, Sophia, what's your relationship with this genre? Of obviously, other than having a turtleneck dress. But
you guys, I have a quarter zip on for the listeners, just so you know. This is a joke.
She's lying. She's wearing a turtleneck dress.
That's a straight up.
It's beige.
It is beige. That is true. It's like a beige heather gray sort of situation. It's a wool blend.
I really gotta go.
She's rocking it, everyone.
Yeah, she's rocking it. She actually has multiple colors. She's just wearing the beige one tonight.
Oh my god.
But anyway, your relationship with the genre, what you love about it so much, and did you have any criteria for this?
Yeah, so I did have some criteria. So this, I think, might be my favorite genre. Really, just in all of film. This is really what got me into film. It got me into classic Hollywood specifically. I feel like these were also, romantic comedies were the first films that were made for adults or for an older audience that I was allowed to watch when I was younger. So I sort of got a good broad exposure to film through romantic comedies. And I also felt like women's stories were being taken seriously in romantic comedies. Not always. Some are a little rough, but I think for the most part, I love how they make you feel good. And even the ones that can be a little bit darker or have humor that's a bit more cynical, these are my comfort movies. These are the movies I watch when I'm sick. These are the movies I watch when I can't sleep. They're movies I watch when I just need something good to put on that makes me feel something. So yeah, I love this genre, and coming up with a top 5 was so difficult. So I tried to really include a mix of different time periods, different directors, but really stay true to the ones that I loved. I also, for listeners, didn't include films that are maybe not your, I don't know, not standard romantic comedies. Like I didn't include Tar, I didn't include Gone Girl, I didn't include Phantom Thread because I wanted to, it would kind of be unfair to everything else involved because those sorts of movies that are really dark and have a very dark humor that aren't technically considered romantic comedies right away, I didn't want to include them again because it would be unfair. Phantom Thread is my favorite movie of all time, so it just would have shot up to number one. I respect you all if you have them on your list, and I will gladly chime in if any of you mention them. But I didn't put them on my list because I've talked about them ad nauseum already, and I wanted to give shout outs to some different movies.
I did think about putting it on the list, and Sophia knows me. She knows me so well that I ended up penalty boxing it as well. I don't know if Tyler's done that. Tyler, did you have any criterion or anything for this list? And then what do you love so much about the romantic comedy genre? Because Tyler was literally texting us all week how excited he was to be back on the show, which I mean, besides like the movie draft episode or like our summer draft episode, this has been the first episode we've had Tyler on in a long time. So it's nice to have you back, my friend. But what about this genre and specifically do you love?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much, just like Sophia. I grew up with this genre. It was one of the first genres where I started seeing things where I felt not only comforted, but kind of like Sophia said, echoing a lot of what she said, actually. They made me laugh. It was something that I got to watch early on where I knew that I felt more mature just by being able to watch it, even at a young age. You know, when you get to watch things that are older, like your parents might not let you watch horror movies, but they might let you watch like a PG-13 or rated R romantic comedy. And anyone who remembers our Criterion top 5 from last year will probably remember that I am obsessed with anything that has to do with romance. So yes, I'm very excited to do this list. My criteria is really just a personal 5 favorites. It was hard to rank them. I will say I did the same thing as Sophia. As much as I would love to list one of my all-time favorites, Phantom Thread, as well, I'm not going to. These are going to be true romantic comedies as I see them. And I will go ahead and say that number 1 is going to be divided into 2 because I have a TV show to go along with it as well.
I have 3 for my number 1, so
God damn it.
I understand.
What is wrong with y'all? You're already breaking these rules. This
I'm
is
the television
for Brady
editor.
logic.
A Martin Scorsese, you know, you can never have a true list. It has to have some ties in it.
Damn it. All right, that's fine. I love the genre so much. I don't know if it's like my favorite genre, but it's definitely like in my top 3. And the reason why, I mean, you guys mentioned it a lot, but I think you guys both will agree that like this was like the genre that you got to watch a lot when you were a kid, and this is where you got to see where movie stars were. Like I think when I think of like who is a movie star, they probably been in a romantic comedy or a romance film of some kind throughout their career. And if they haven't, what the hell happened in that career? Because then they've just kind of wasted themselves. Because like I look at the list that I have here, like 4 out of my 5 have like kind of major league movie stars of their era, and if not of their era of all time in them. And they also have, I think the great thing about a romantic comedy can be the key ally, other than just having a great cast, a wonderful script. And I know that Sophia and Tyler and myself, we are like absolute lovers of a screenplay. Especially a hilarious biting screenplay. So a lot of those have to work here. Obviously the chemistry, and there's also something too about like a romantic comedy that feels very lightning in a bottle, because like anytime you try to like do this again, or somebody else tries to like mimic the same sort of story or with the same sort of people or whatnot, it just doesn't work the same again. Like, you know, you can make your Pepsis and your RC Colas, but nothing's better than a classical Coca-Cola romantic comedy. You know what I mean? And so ultimately I didn't have any criteria other than like, yes, the sort of subversive, what I would say is a romance with a lot of freaking comedy, like Phantom Thread, because I'm a sicko and laugh a lot when it comes to that movie, and think that that's like, if we were just doing romance movies, sure, that's definitely on the list. But we're talking about like romantic comedies, and why I think that movie is wickedly funny. It's also like the comedy's not at the forefront. It's a sort of an afterthought, especially towards the last third of that movie. So I penalty box that, and yeah, like Tar, though I would not call that romantic at all, Sophia.
Well,
But
I mean, you know, Nina Haas and Kate, they have their moments.
Here we go. Yeah, let's let Sophia discuss it. I want to hear this. I know it's about to be good because I know how she feels about this movie.
So, but Sophia, I'm going to kick it off to you. Your number 5.
Yeah, so my number 5 is by someone who I had to include on this list. It's Something's Gotta Give by Nancy Meyers. I had to put a Nancy Meyers movie on here. She makes these fabulous, gorgeously designed movies that just make you feel taken care of. They're luxurious, and that's what I want from my romantic comedies. I love this screenplay for so many reasons. I think it's so smart in what it does with its characters, and it absolutely does not get enough credit for the screenplay or for Nancy's direction, honestly. But I love how it focuses on people who are not 25. Like, that is amazing, right? Like, having Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson in it, who are amazing together in Reds, the Warren Beatty movie that I adore. They're amazing together there. They're perfect here. And just hearing their conversations with each other, they make you feel good, but also just really emotional. Like, they're so vulnerable in this movie. And I love that. I think all romantic comedies need a little twinge of something that's unbelievable just for fun. And that's the Keanu Reeves character. So
yeah. It's too perfect.
I love the love triangle. Yeah. You have like hot Keanu, you have Jack, you have Diane Keaton and her summer turtlenecks. Yeah, I love it. I think it's so smart. So before I say anything else, do either of you guys have it on your list?
Yeah,
I imagine so. Yeah.
It's on my list.
Don't.
It's
I do love it though.
It's all the way up my number 2.
Amazing.
It's a movie that I recently rewatched because we did our 2003 retrospective, and it shot up to my number 1 movie of that year. And it's really one of those like first. I feel like, you know, a lot of the movies that are on our list are really, you know, most of them are like, you know, from the past, you know, 80s and beyond. When you start to go back, but like Something's Gotta Give, and another movie on my list that I'll talk about here in a minute. These are like 2 films. The other movie on my list is kind of like maybe a little bit of a cheat code when it comes to romantic comedy, but this is like the quintessential one. Plus, like, Nancy Meyers is such a predominant figure in the genre, and what Nancy does here is she takes the biggest superstar in the world, the biggest movie star in the world, and makes them examine like the 30 years of their sort of persona, like the Jack Nicholson sort of persona. You have Diane Keaton, who's like literally in, you know, turtlenecks. They have a scene where their sex scene involves literally checking his blood pressure, but then also like him getting scissors and cutting off her turtleneck. Like, it's weirdly tantalizing to watch. You have Keanu Reeves looking like an absolute snack. You have Frances McDormand coming in here and playing the quirky best friend, which it's like
more McDormand.
Never seen Frances have that much fun in a movie. Period. End of story. Amanda Peet's really great in the movie too, playing the sort of young daughter, you know, interest that Nicholson sort of falls in love with. But it really is about Keaton, like you mentioned, and about Nicholson's chemistry. And I think it's actually really heartbreaking. Like, it's a heartbreaking movie. It's about the sense of like thinking that, you know, that your life is perfect or without love, and then the fact that you kind of have to like open yourself up, and it comes in weird sort of unexpected expectations. And I think that, you know, it's complicated is really good, and like the intern's really, it's not even that, I wouldn't even count that as romantic. And the holiday is, that movie is just, I'm gonna say that movie's fucking ridiculous.
I love
like
it though.
But it's so good. It's like it's good,
so
but
good.
It's
so
also
good.
like it's
I
also
love
like
it.
just like, what the fuck is this movie? Like
I'll
half
watch
the time
anything with Cameron Diaz.
I'll watch anything with Jude Law.
I'm a Kate Winslet.
Mr. Napkinhead. But this one to me strikes that perfect balance of like just being kind of having more to say than anything in Nancy's movies, but also them being very tongue in cheek. And then there's like all the imagery to the, like, you know, to Paris and French music and all the stuff in the end. And I love Nicholson sort of going through like the Rolodex of all the women he's sort of wrong throughout, you know, his life as a playboy. And it's kind of interesting to really think about that with where Jack is now. So it's the last great role I think Jack ever gave, sadly, because now he's retired. But it's again, like I said, lightning in a bottle, right, Sophia? It's like one of those you just can't quantify it. And it's 20 years old now, and it's still kind of as timely as it can be. So
I think so. I think good romantic comedies really are timeless. Like, even if they feel, I don't know, like some of the dialogue can feel a little dated, like at the core, it's always going to feel like the story is relevant and the story matters. And just a quick note on Nancy's direction, because I feel like she's sort of known for her kitchens, and people just like chalk up her movies to being
kitchen movie,
beautiful and having great production design. And that's true. But she's really creative with the camera here, like incorporating a lot from Harry's point of view. Like even how the camera looks at the women in the frame is really, really interesting. And again, something I don't think she gets enough credit for.
It's also like her learning a little bit too from, like, I think sort of the blunder that is like what women want, and kind of really like exploring it a little bit more seriously, you know, than that. But then also too, like, it's one of like those, you know, I'm sorry, but like their interaction over like Hotmail or whatever, you know, the instant messenger, much better than the whole movie You Got Mail. Just gonna say that. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I love You've Got Mail, but I do like this one more.
You Got Mail.
You've Got Mail kind of stresses me out, but I do like it.
Yeah,
it really
like,
stresses me out.
Just tell the truth. I mean, come on.
No, it's hard. It has to be hard.
I guess we're not going to get into this.
No, we're not getting. No, this is a whole rabbit hole.
I don't have that on my list.
Do not want Sophia to take out the gloves? Let her just keep the gloves on the dress right now. Thank you very much. So Hyler, you're number 5.
My number 5 is a movie. I just love it. Directed by Jason Reitman. It's Up in the Air. One of my. I just love this movie. I was a lot younger when I saw it, obviously, because I think it came out in like 2009. So I was in high school.
Yep.
And I feel like at the time when I was watching, I've always liked these kind of romantic comedies, these romance movies, but I guess I had never really been faced with a movie that does not give its lead what you think it's going to do, and it kind of subverts your expectation. And I think at whatever age I was then, it just kind of threw me what happens in the movie with George Clooney's character, who travels around the country firing people. And of course, he has a situationship with Vera Farmiga. And I don't know, this movie makes me laugh a lot. Anna Kendrick is in it, and I think she provides the most laughs, her and George Clooney's relationship in the movie. But I do think it kind of devastated me at the end of it. I think probably most people feel that way after they see how it ends up, which I won't spoil, even though it's a little bit older, just in case you want to watch it. But it is really good. It's really smart. It is one of those movies. It's not like the comedy in it for a rom-com, or I don't know if you'd necessarily call it just a rom-com, but it isn't necessarily light and fun the entire time. There's a lot of there are jokes about firing people and just living through life. There's a lot of thoughtful conversation between Anna Kendrick and George Clooney's characters, just about what they're looking for in life and what it means to be in a relationship and looking for someone else.
Yeah, I love this movie. I think it's Reitman's best movie he's ever done. I think that it came at such a time too, like after the financial collapse in 2008, it felt so personal. I mean, him interviewing the people that had actually been fired like that, and those non-actors. But then it's also it's weirdly, it kind of goes good with Something's Got to Give. It has like this, you know, existential look at the playboy of his time in George Clooney, and looking at, you know, his sort of like having a guy that has a philosophy, and it is a broken philosophy. It's kind of an aged philosophy, and what happens when something like love or something, you know, like a relationship in terms of, you know, just a partnership with Anna Kendrick kind of folds in there, and he has to like sort of let down his guard and everything. But also too, like, Vera Farmiga is incredible in that movie. There's that scene where Anna Kendrick gets broken up with over the phone, and they're sort of sitting there in the hotel bar and talking about how easy it is to, or not easy it is to be in love, or to be a woman or a career woman or anything. And it's a really good movie. It reminds me of Broadcast News a little bit in a lot of ways too. A movie that I absolutely love. It might be a movie that we talk about here later. I don't know. But I still love that movie a lot. I know that people sort of pick it apart or say it's not as heavy or it's too sentimental or whatever, but it's my second favorite film from 2009 still, behind Fantastic Mr. Fox. But it's a movie that I don't think Reitman's made a particularly good movie ever since. I think like Young Adult's a little is probably the closest thing, and even I still have like some issues with that movie. So but yeah, Tyler, I think that's a great pick. Sophia, you don't
I
have
love
this
that.
one, do you?
I don't have it on my list, but I do love it. I agree. I think it's Reitman's best. And I also love Vera Farmiga in it. I feel like she's had such a strange career, like from Scream Queen to whatever her weird accent was in The Departed. I feel like this is her happy
What is
place.
she doing now? She's like like in Megadeth concerts, like singing like grunge music or something now. I saw
Good for her.
like
Good for her.
let her live her life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She's taking that Oscar nomination, she's making it sing. You know what I mean? So my number 5 might be probably like the most bro-y pick I guess you could have on this list. But it's a movie that I wildly laugh at a lot. And in an era of like Apatow comedies sort of dominated our lives, and but I think the ones that really are the best are the ones that are sort of sentimental and have something different to say rather than just like a bunch of drug sequences and Seth Rogen like and it's laugh or whatnot, you know what I mean? And so I think one of the best Apatow comedies is Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which is a movie that I remember seeing. I thought it was absolutely hysterical. Jason Segel, one of the funniest guys, but also like it taps into a lot of like his depression and his sensibilities as sort of what we've seen post this movie, about this guy who thinks that he's got the woman of his dreams, she's a television star and everything. She breaks up with him, goes on this vacation, realizes that like the guy that she's with and her are at the same resort. They're literally next to one another, and then he starts kind of falling for Mila Kunis, who plays like one of the hotel workers, like receptionists there, and it's really funny. Siegel is I think one of like our underrated sort of like presence. I think like he's not a movie star, but there's just something about like Jason Segel. Like Tyler knows this from watching Shrinking this year, or just like we know this from watching like Into the Tour. We know this from watching like the Muppet movies or something. There's something about, or just his work on I Met Your Mother. There's something about Jason Segel that like you as an audience member, you just really relate to. And there's a lot of sadness that is underneath this character rather than just a lot of hilarity. There's obviously it was like how we got introduced to Russell Brand, so that's a terrible thing. But then there's like Jonah Hill, who plays like the worst waiter possible, trying to like get his mixtape over to him, which is really funny. And then you have Paul Rudd playing like this idiot surfing instructor too. But then like really what grounds the whole film is his relationship with him and Mila Kunis, and it all centers around then him showing her a little bit of his Dracula musical, which I don't know if you've ever seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but he plays the Dracula Van Helsing song, and it's one of the funniest things you'll ever see, but it's also still too one of the saddest things you'll ever see as well. So I love that movie a lot. I think that like I said, those Apatow comedies, they dominated for such a long time, but the ones that like stood out to me, like Anchorman or I Love You Man or this movie in particular, they stood out because they had something more to say rather than just the bro humor that was sort of underneath. And yeah, it's actually kind of like a little bit of a sentimental yet kind of sadder film than people give credit, but it's still wildly hilarious. So Forgetting Sarah Marshall, that's my number 5.
That's a good pick. Not on my list, but I agree with everything you said. I also think, yeah, Jason Segel, he reminds me of an actor who I think would have been big in like the 70s or 80s, like one of those like real like working actors who's just
Kind of
really
like
funny.
kind of like an Elliot Gould kind of like, of his era. You know what I mean? Where
Oh,
he's like, I'm not saying like looks wise. I'm just saying like
I was gonna say I'm only attracted to one of those men, but
I know that, but like the fact that like Gould wasn't like the biggest star on the planet, but yet he was so reliable in so many things, and that's what I think
Mhm.
about Siegel. He's like so reliable, and audiences relate to him. Yet it's not like he's Brad Pitt. You know what I
I could
mean?
see him working with Altman. I could see Altman
Yeah.
actually really liking him.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Siegel
sure.
is like really funny, but like kind of like you said, he's not just relatable. He has that thing that just when you're watching him in these kind of movies, because I love it's not on my list, but I love that movie, and I also love him in The 5 Year Engagement. I think he's so funny in that.
That's funny.
But he just, I don't know, especially in this one, he just has you want to root for him. You
Yeah.
want him to get the girl by the end. And maybe that's not always the case because some romantic leads can be annoying or, what have you, anything. But he is just, it doesn't matter who he's playing. The way he performs is so endearing to me.
Yeah. No, for
Mhm.
sure. Sophia, you're number 4.
My number 4, I'm going with another fairly recent movie. This is actually the newest movie on my list.
Ooh.
And that is Frances Ha.
Oh.
I had to include a movie that also
Had Adam
it's
Driver.
not yeah, Adam Driver. Yes, of course. But also like in all seriousness, I felt like I had to include a movie that is ultimately about your relationship with yourself. And like through all of the comedy and all of the romance and like romance that's platonic, so like platonic relationships between friends, and that idea of it's not the romance that you typically think of, but it's sometimes those relationships carry more weight for you when you're that age. So like in the movie, I mean, she's 27 years old, she doesn't know who she is, and she's navigating the world and her relationship with her friend Sophie, but also she has this sort of like proposal of like living together turned into a breakup. And then it's just like it's a very, very relatable film, I think. And I don't have any Woody Allen movies on my list. I don't have any French New Wave kind of romantic comedies on my list, but this movie feels indebted to those sorts of movies that were very influential. The way that it's shot, I love the black and white. It's just, again, like there's so many, you talking about scripts too, and how important a good script is for these movies. I think that this is my favorite Noah Baumbach movie. And you can see him. Why is it?
Why is that? I mean, come on.
I mean, it's Greta. It's Greta.
There you
go. You can see him, I think, fall in love with Greta Gerwig through this movie.
Yeah.
And that in itself is another sort of like beautiful romantic comedy, like seeing him, how the camera moves with her and how she really is like the heart and soul and spirit of him. Yeah. Really. I mean, she makes everything that he does that much better. And there's so many good moments in this movie that I love. I love how she says she doesn't feel like a real person yet. I love the moment with her debit card with Adam Driver. Like that's just so, I mean, that's just so real when you're growing up. And she's 27. She's not like she's 21. Like there's a little bit of Arrested Development there, I think, but I love it. It's a great New York movie and yeah, one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, I remember, I think I remember watching that when I was in college, and it was just like, wow, this movie hit at the most honest point of your life, right before you're about to get to where she's at in the film. And I think that was the moment where, as the years have gone on, you kind of go back and you play the tape, right? Of when did someone become a superstar? When did somebody become this writer director phenomenon that everybody sort of loves and that I love too? It pinpoints back to this, this is, also it proves why, like, she's such a great actress too. She's so fantastic. Like there's something about, like, even, a movie I loved last year, I know Sophia loved it too, but like White Noise, like just seeing her in front of a camera, whether it's directed by Noah or not, like she has a presence, is something that's very relatable. especially for our generation. But the way she writes in this film alongside Noah, it's just very honest, and it feels so much like her. So when you get to Lady Bird and when you get to Little Women, and I think why everyone's so excited about Barbie this year is because like she's very confident in what her character set out to do, and the message that she's conveying as a writer and now as a director too. But it's such a wonderful performance. And you're right, Sophia, like the idea, there were two things that I wanted to mention when you were saying that. You were talking about like not having like French New Wave and all this stuff. Romantic comedy feels very indebted to American directors and American audiences, and I know that there are a ton of international features and everything, but it's almost like the Western, right, where it's so tied to it. And yes, there are spaghetti Westerns and other things that from other countries, but it feels like such a slice of Americana when you're talking about a romantic comedy, that we kind of are going to lean probably a lot on these lists when it comes to that. But yeah, no, it's just it's a great movie. And I loved what you said, because it's true, like not all of these have to be about boy and a girl, or a girl and a boy, or or two guys or two girls, or whoever is falling in love with whoever. It can be just about like a romantic comedy about someone trying to find the love within themselves before they are able to open themselves up. So it's I like that. Damn it, I wish I put that on my list. But yeah, it's a great movie.
That movie's not on my list, but it is, I mean, an all-time favorite. I would say at least once a month, get in a thought loop thinking about the little monologue she gives at the table about what she's looking for in a relationship. I just like when I think about it, I cannot stop. Like I think that thinking about being seen, perceived, and understood by another person in that context and at that level is something that maybe I didn't even realize that was exactly what I wanted to. And then she said it, and I was like, oh my God, Greta Gerwig knows who I am. But it's just like, yeah, like it's amazing in that moment. There are many moments in that movie. Sophia already mentioned when she says that she's embarrassed because she's not a real person yet. I mean, I am 29 currently. I turn 30 later this year. So I'm still in that late 20-somethings mindset of like, am I making it right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing the right things when I'm doing these things? And it's just so wonderful to be able to see a film like that where you can be like, this is not just me, for sure. We have all gone through this. And it's so specific to her, which I think makes it so universal.
Yeah, no, for sure. Tyler, you're number 4.
For number 4, I'd like to talk about Miss Jenna Rink, who on her 13th birthday, after being humiliated, makes a wish and is covered in dust, magical dust. And the next morning, her wish is granted, and she wakes up 30 years old. And I, of course, am talking about 13 going on 30, with Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo. True light in my life. I've seen this movie so many times. I have memories of watching it. When I think of watching this movie, I think of watching it with my mother, who we have seen this movie together so many times. We used to watch the scene where they are all dancing together, where they're doing Thriller. Like, this movie is so sweet to me. I think that it's kind of the opposite of why I love Open the Air. It shows you a very light side to falling in love and growing older. And it shows you what could really be if you are willing to just understand the youth inside of yourself. And I think that's really important. And this movie is just so, I cannot overstate how sweet this movie is to me. I just love Jennifer Garner, and I think I always will. So yeah, 13 going on 30.
I love this movie so much, and I turned 30 this year, so I'm going to watch it right before my 30th birthday. I remember seeing this in the theater with my mom and one of my other friends and her mom, and we all loved it. It was just, it's the best. There's so many good lines too, and I don't know, there's like a deeper story at the core, but my favorite moment in the movie is when she goes back home and we hear Billy Joel's Vienna. That's the best.
I think about that dress that she wears to the party like all the time, and her hair.
Oh yeah,
She has her hair up. Like
Yeah, I think
of that all the time.
I think about Andy Serkis doing Thriller, which is just like kind of
I
iconic.
forgot he was in that.
I
Oh
was
my
like,
god.
That's
yeah,
so
plays her
random.
boss.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Judy Greer, amazing villain.
Yes, icon.
Literally, if Judy Greer's there, I'm there.
Yep. And then, oh my god, Mark Ruffalo,
A babe.
my
Dreamboat.
A babe, yeah.
Ooh, I mean,
so handsome.
Always has been, always will be. Mark Ruffalo, good lord.
The cute scene between them, like when they're talking on the swings. Get out of here.
Get out of here, Mark Ruffalo.
Like,
and then Crazy for You by Madonna at the end. Great soundtrack too.
Yeah.
Love it.
It is a product of our time. For sure.
It's truly, I mean, I think that everyone in their life must see this movie. And I'm sure that, like, if I had to guess, it was probably like Roger Ebert's favorite movie. I'm pretty sure. I couldn't quote him directly, but I think I know that. I think he said that it's very important to him.
I am actually looking that up right now just to see what Ebert gave it, because that's such a slanderous thing. Oh my god, he gave it 2 stars. Okay.
He's wrong sometimes. Everyone's wrong.
Yeah, it was one of those.
That's okay.
You know what? It was one of those he reviewed and he reevaluated it. You know,
absolutely,
he does that.
He watched it later at home and said, "Shit,
yeah,
I was wrong."
Yeah. So, I'm gonna move on because I could take those jokes many ways. Anyway, my number 4 is a movie. I don't know if Tyler's seen it, but I think Sophia's seen it. Sometimes, man, you just watch a movie and you just hot people in a love triangle. Love triangles are big in romantic comedies, right? And everybody knows I love sports. And so there's not one hotter than Bull Durham. Bull Durham is
sorry.
I mean, yeah.
No man has ever looked better than Kevin Costner and Bull Durham. I like maybe Paul Newman and Cool Hand Luke, but wow.
Yeah. Tell me I'm wrong.
A lot.
It's a lot to take in. You've never seen this movie. Tyler, have you seen this?
I haven't. I'm so sorry.
It is
oh my god,
a hilarious movie. Just, as a baseball movie, really, really funny. But it is about this young pitcher played by Tim Robbins, who is about to make it to the major leagues, but he needs a year in the minors. And so they bring in this veteran catcher played by Crash Davis, played by Kevin Costner, to sort of mentor him. And as this is going on, I think she's like the statistician of the team is what Annie is at the time or whatnot. And she's also got like this beautiful sort of baseball mind. She picks a guy every year and she sort of like puts him under her wing, but she's also like having sex with him the entire year. And she kind of eyes both Robbins and Costner at the beginning of the film. And Costner kind of turns her down because he's like, I'm not going to go toe to toe with this boy played by Tim Robbins, who's basically playing an idiot the entire time.
He's such a himbo. Oh my god.
Such a himbo in the movie. And Susan Sarandon is kind of, being pulled between the both of them, but then there's also a lot between these two guys and sort of it's almost like coming of age, so he can go to the majors. But then I think too, what's really just like beautiful is the last third of the movie, which I'm not going to spoil because I think, Tyler, you will really love this movie. It's one of those, like, it's a sports movie, but it's not really about the sport as much as it is about these three people dynamic and really like their philosophies, because like, Crash's philosophy is vastly different than Annie's, and Nuke's sort of like stuck in the middle of it. But then it's such a sexy fucking movie. Like, this movie
I'm looking at the poster right now.
They are already really hot. Like, it's a hot movie.
It's a hot movie.
In the Criterion Collection,
he looks hot.
I highly recommend it. I think you'll absolutely love it. But yes, if you see it, I mean, there is a monologue that Kevin Costner gives about Crash's philosophy at Annie's house, and her reaction is exactly how you and I and everybody else in this goddamn world, oh my. And like
Mhm.
and then of course like delivered right after it is like it's like Nuke saying something like, who's the certain philosopher, and he gets like the name completely wrong, and it's so good. And it's like it truly is one of those like perfect movies that I don't think a lot of people really talk about as one of the great movies of all time. And so yeah, Bull Durham is my number 3, or yeah, my number 4. I mean,
Tyler, you need to watch it. It's so good.
I'll be tuned in.
Every so often there are those like prompts that go around on Twitter or anything where it's like, what fictional characters do you really relate to or do you identify with? And Annie, for me, I love her, and just her commitment to baseball is so great. And how she knows what she wants, but she's a really complex character, especially for a woman in a sports movie. Like
yeah.
I can't think of many other examples, honestly. And yeah, it's wonderful. And
I mean,
it's a hot movie.
Steve.
The tagline is a major league love story in a minor league town. I am
Hell
there.
yeah.
I'm
Hell
there.
yeah.
Yes.
Like,
God, it's so
you
good.
catch my Twitter, everyone. Probably in the next 14 days, I will have to watch this. It's not even a long movie. Oh, I'm there. Like, oh, without a doubt.
Get the Criterion Blu-ray. It's a fantastic restoration. Sophia, you're number 3.
Yeah, my number 3 is one of my all-time favorites that I watched when I was really young, like maybe 6 or 7, and it introduced me to one of my favorite actresses ever, Audrey Hepburn. It is Roman Holiday from 1953. I think this is a perfect movie. William Wyler, one of the all-time greats, one of my favorite directors. It's this really sort of incredible reverse Cinderella story,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of times does come up in romantic comedies. A lot of different directors have played with this formula and have referenced Roman Holiday when making their own romantic comedies. I love the little moments of screwball comedy. So Audrey Hepburn, she plays Princess Anne, and this is also her A Star is Born moment, which is really exciting. Really like brought her into the American consciousness. But she plays this princess, and like at the beginning there's this wonderful moment when she like loses a shoe and she tries to get it back on. So it has these like really funny little moments in it. But then Gregory Peck, who is another one of my favorites, again, talk about hot people in a movie. He plays a journalist, and they end up meeting by accident when she flees one night and wants to live her life as a normal person, which is another one of my favorite rom-com tropes. But they end up meeting and falling in love, and it's just it's a beautiful movie with great moments of comedy sort of intertwined within the story. There's a great moment where he's trying to find a place for her to sleep. There's this photographer that's kind of tailing them throughout. And I love when the endings of romantic comedies differ from what you might expect when they don't end up together, because they can't. I feel okay spoiling a movie from 1953, by the way. Apologies to those who haven't seen it.
How dare you?
But yeah, I love this. It's a warm movie. I love movies that take place in Italy too. So just like Book Club The Next Chapter.
Just like it.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Same quality.
Exactly.
Same quality, same review. Sophia. No, it's a great movie. It's one of the few Sophia's gonna hate me for saying this. It's one of the few Audrey Hepburn films that I like, because I'm not a big fan of hers. And
you're not a fan of her, or you're not a fan of her movies?
Her in those movies.
She's perfect. She's one of our greatest actresses.
Is she?
Yes, she is. She is. I will die on this hill. Like you can talk about Breakfast at Tiffany's, like, and all of its problems. That's fine. I agree.
Sure.
But I mean, I think she's been in so many classics, and she's different every time. She's just a wonderful soul too. She's a humanitarian. I don't know. I love her. I think she's wonderful. She's a classic icon for a reason.
I said you weren't gonna like what I was gonna say.
It's fine.
I know.
It's fine. Funny Face, Sabrina, Charade. I mean, she's great in all of those.
Yeah. Movies good. And I do agree with you. Definitely like one of like the when you think of romantic comedies too, like a classic, like a
Mm-hmm.
staple in the genre. So, Tyler, have you seen it?
I haven't
Yeah.
seen any of her movies.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I think if you love rom-coms, like you should watch this one because it's not laugh out loud funny, I would say, but it has just like these little delicate touches.
Mhm.
And Weiler's a master. I mean, he
Yeah.
knows how to compose a
Weiler's.
shot, and I mean, it really is just it's a Star is Born moment for Audrey, like I said. So if you want to watch a movie of hers, I would start with this one. It's great.
Yeah. Start on
Okay.
a high note. Yeah.
I always
This
listen to
is
Sophia's
this
recommendations.
take is going to age really poorly when the classic Hollywood Twitter finds you.
You can find me. I'm not scared of them. You
Classic
know,
Hollywood Twitter.
I'm not. Yeah.
We're a powerful group.
That real niche, powerful group.
No.
Small but fierce.
Kevin Jacobson, if you're listening, help me out.
Kevin's gonna be like, I agree with you. Anyway, number 3, Tyler Doster.
Ooh, we are moving into movies now that mean the world to me. So number 3 is gonna be Richard Ayoade's Submarine. Um it is a
Ooh.
movie I have seen many, many times. It's about a 15-year-old who has a couple of missions before his next birthday. He wants to lose his virginity and he wants to break up the relationship his mother, played by Sally Hawkins, has with her new obnoxious boyfriend. Um, it's Craig Roberts who plays the lead, Oliver. And it's really just about, obviously, he's 15, so he's just running through life in the United Kingdom. It is obviously a British movie since Ayoade did it. But it's really an interesting look at how he actually finds this girl named Jordana and he kind of falls in love with her, but he's kind of, I guess you could say, obsessed with her. And it's not like a manic pixie dream girl situation, but he is using her to project his issues onto to stay away from his family and to stay away from the things that are actually bothering him. So I guess it's what makes it important to me is it's a interesting look at just what people will do, especially when you're a teenager, to stay away from your problems while you're chasing things that don't actually matter, even though they seem like they do at the time. Because when you're a teenager, everything seems overblown and hyperbolic and like it's the end of the world if you can't do it. And I think Submarine really touches on that nicely, as well as just being really funny to me. I think it's funny if you like that kind of sense of humor that the Brits have, then you're really going to like this one. And yeah, so this is just a movie that means a lot to me and kind of always has since I saw it.
It
I've never seen it,
is
but I
a blind
love
spot for me.
Richard Ayoade.
Yeah.
He's great in
It's
the
so
Souvenir part too. I love him in that.
he is. I love him. Like I watch the Big Fat Quiz every year, and I always think of this movie because of it. It's so weird. It's not long at all. If I remember correctly, it's like an hour 30, hour 35. It's super short. I will confession everyone, I will tell you, this is like when I used to have a Tumblr. I used to like reblog things about this movie specifically all the time because it's so pretty at some point. So yeah, if you guys ever want a really fun time, this movie is actually a really good time, but it's also thoughtful. So
I need to catch it. I have not seen it, so I am adding that to my watch list on Letterboxd.
Me too.
I will add that in. My number 3 is a movie I finally caught up with. When did I catch up with this? I think I caught up with this last year. Because I was doing a movie series over at In Session Film. I was doing the films of Howard Hawks, and this is one of the great romantic comedies of all time, and that's Howard Hawks is Bringing Up Baby, which is a hysterical film. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, one of the funniest movies of all time, and it's it basically involves like this it's kind of hard to describe really weirdly too where it's about like this museum sort of curators trying to get this donation of $1 million, and he's being he's trying to pursue the money, but there's this wealthy heiress, but she's very irritating that's sort of following around, and she has a pet leopard, and there's all these sort of twists and turns that go with it. It's truly one of the best films in terms of physical comedy. I mean, Cary Grant, my God, one of the great icons of all time. But the reason why this movie is so goddamn good is because Katharine Hepburn is extraordinary in this movie. It is one of the great actress performances of all time. And her comedic timing alongside Cary Grant in this movie is it again, lightning in a bottle. This just doesn't happen. And Grant went on and made tons of other great films, especially with Hawks, and then he also worked alongside with her in a movie like Philadelphia Story, which I know a lot of people would probably put on their list, and I like that movie a lot. But I think that this movie, because of sort of more of its chaotic nature, as well as it's also the chemistry, it's just focused solely on these two here. And I think in that movie, I think in Philadelphia Story, like Jimmy Stewart's character kind of like muddies a little bit of that water of that chemistry of because Grant and Hepburn are so good on the screen together. It's not necessarily like Jimmy Stewart's fault. It's just like this movie, I think, made the mold of what I wanted to see from these two iconic actors working together. Howard Hawks' just kind of direction as a director, he's one of the more underrated, I think, directors of his era and his time. It's mostly seen as a sort of a journeyman, but he had a lot to say, and he was very, 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 very against the Hays Code, and he would always find a way to sort of make his films be more subversive than just what you would think on the surface. So, Bringing Up Baby, another movie in the Criterion Collection, and truly just one of those movies that like I watched it last year, and I go back to certain scenes or whatnot because the jokes are flying a minute. Every minute there's tons of jokes. There's so much layers to the movie. And so sometimes you put a classic on your list and you're like, yeah, it just kind of makes sense. It's like Roman Holiday. You kind of put it on the list. Everybody's like, oh yeah, you put it, but they deserve to be there because they are the ones that sort of made the formula. And we wouldn't have the other films that we talked about without something like this. And you talk about movie stars, Katharine Hepburn, like this movie it wasn't well received as much. It wasn't as much of like at the box office as you would think. But then over time, this is, I think, like a top 3 Hepburn performance for me. And it's like right up there with Lion in the Winter. And so yeah, it's uniquely special in so many ways.
You're trying to curry favor with classic Hollywood Twitter, I see. No, I love this movie. It's one of those that I said I was having 3 movies at when I said I had 3 at number 1. This was one of them. I think this movie is relentless.
Yeah.
It is so funny, and I won't add really anything else to what you said because I think you covered a lot of it. But I mean, Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant are just, we do not have stars like them anymore.
No, we don't have movie stars that look like that and can do that.
Yeah,
it look that good and be that good.
It is just, it's nonstop, and I love Howard Hawks, so I wanted to put a movie of his high up on my list, and I really do. I love the classics. I love everything from that time period, and I feel like when major outlets sometimes talk about romantic comedies, they neglect our early 30s, 40s films. So yep. I also had the Philadelphia Story up there as well. I'll save the other one for later when we get to our number ones. But yeah, I mean, anything where Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant just sparkle, I love those movies so much. And I feel like I will never stop recommending them to people. But Bringing Up Baby, while you were talking about it, I started saving some pictures from it to my phone of Katharine Hepburn with that leopard in the bassinet.
So damn good.
So
and
good.
Yes, Hawk. And the other thing about it too is like is Hawks, like a director of that kind of caliber, being able to work in a genre like that, and then like just a couple of years. I mean, then His Girl Friday, and a bunch of other films.
I love His Girl Friday.
Yeah, but then I think if you really want to like a treat, anybody that hasn't seen a lot of Howard Hawks films, not a romantic comedy, but Only Angels Have Wings. What a great little cynical movie that has like one of the greatest endings of all time. So Sophia, we're at your number 2.
Oh my gosh, great. So this movie, I don't know if either of you will have it on your list. it is sort of a little poisonous treat in a similar way to Phantom Thread. Like, it's a little bizarre, but I think it counts as a romantic comedy. I love movies about strange relationships, or when things seem really unlikely at first, but then it all makes sense to you. So my number 2 is Harold and Maude. I
I had this
I
at an
love
honorable
it.
mention. Yeah,
Good. I'm glad. This movie, you know, it's one of those classic age gap romances, but this one is, it's really, really pushing it in a way that I really love, and I find just so it's just so beautiful and so strange, and it's really sad. Like, this movie is really sad, but it's also incredibly funny. And for the ending of this movie, I always start sobbing,
Yeah.
like right as it ends, and then I laugh instantly. And it is just the weirdest thing that happens for me when I watch this movie. And it could only happen with something like a Hal Ashby movie. I think he is just such a master of this time and of editing and of tone. And so for anyone who hasn't seen it, Maud is 80 years old in this movie. Like, she's old, and Harold is young. He's 19, and he is obsessed with death, like obsessed with death. And she has this vivacious personality, and even though she's close to death, she's full of life. And so much comes from their relationship together and when they connect. And I understand, like, if people can be put off by that and by how strange it all is, but I love it. I find this movie to be deeply comforting in a way that I never expected when I first watched it. It's unfortunately out of print on the Criterion, but I have the Criterion. Yeah. So go to eBay or try to find it because I have one of the like early Criterions. I got it because it's one of my favorites. But I mean, Ruth Gordon as Maud it's one of the great performances.
Oscar nomination where, please?
Truly, where, yeah, in 1971. She should have been nominated for Best Actress.
Yeah,
but
some of the people in that lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. Nicholas and Alexandra. No. Yeah, Bud Cort too. We like never really saw much of him again, but I think he's but you know what I mean. There's a whole thing with Altman and him.
Yeah, like there was that, and then Brewster McCloud a little bit, and then it's
drama.
Yeah, drama, and then he sort of like fell apart off the side.
But I love it. I love the Cat Stevens.
Oh my god.
Music. I think it's wonderful. It's beautiful and hilarious and perfect to me.
It's a movie that's been recently on the top of mind because I saw it for the first time in a long time, like 3 weeks ago. I remember you and I talking about it a little bit too, and that ending, because it's just this like, it's such like a gut punch too. And I think that like, age gap discussions in movies are really like tiresome. And I think like anyone that like complains about like age gaps in more modern films needs to like go back to this one, because like this is actually like, if you're going to have a problem with something like an 80-year-old and a 19-year-old, it's kind of a little bit like, it's kind of like great. The worst thing, like, you know what I mean? It's a little bit worse, but also too, like, it's done with such a weird sensitivity and warmth to it. And then like by the end, there's that sequence where he's driving in the car, and the music and the Cat Stevens music's playing, and it's beautiful. And it kind of sneaks up on you because you're kind of like, it's like a whimsy. The movie is very whimsical, and it does
have a whimsy.
It's like it's very playful. Like the music, the Cat Stevens music, it kind of goes with that vibe. And then by the end, it's just like bam, right there. It hits you emotionally. It's up there with being there as Ashby's best. I think like they're both just perfect movies. Just a wonderful director, Hal Ashby too.
I love
just
him.
The way sort of he, I just love the use of his camera and the way he uses his space, but then also how it's very slapsticky at times, and yes, Ruth Gordon has just got this energy throughout this entire film, and it's so chaotic, but it's also it's romantic, but then it's also teaching Harold a lot, about the world and his maturity. It's also a movie about like him. This isn't going to be forever, so he's within learning him about this woman and falling in love with her. She's also teaching him about the world, because she very well might know that she might not be in it much longer. So it's this great tap dance between the two of them. I find it that she's like 81, he's 19. It's a sort of 100, and and that's our sort of life expectancy. So like they complete each other in sort of that sense. So I always find that interesting. Tyler, have you seen this one?
I haven't.
Oh, you will really love it.
It's interesting. I think you would like it, because just knowing your taste, I feel like you would vibe with the sense of humor of the movie.
Yeah. And then
it sounds like something that I would be into, to be honest.
The tonal shifts of sadness by the end too, I think you really like. So not to say that like Tyler's a sad person, just I know his taste. Tyler, you're number 2.
So for my number 2, y'all, I really like this movie. I haven't seen it in about 2 years. It is something that when I watch it, I cry like every single time. I am, of course, talking about Time.
Oh my God.
Oh, here we go. I knew somebody was going to bring it up. It's just, oh my God.
I love this movie. Let me tell you guys something. We could actually change the entirety of this podcast to just talking about Rachel McAdams because of how I feel about that woman. Not only is her hair fabulous in this movie, because it would not look good on everybody.
Her fringe.
Oh, I mean, come on. Like, this movie, if I'm not mistaken, one of the first times I ever saw Margot Robbie. And she doesn't do her, regular accent in it that I can recall. We know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
It's me. Anyway,
Harley
Margot Robbie.
Quinn. Yeah.
But About Time is just so funny. Donald Gleason is also really cute in it. I love seeing him. I think he is just adds something extra to everything he is in. But I think they have really fabulous chemistry. This movie also, this is so random, but for anyone, this movie has Fleabag's best friend, Boo. She's in this movie. He hits on her at the party at the beginning. So that's just trivia for anyone listening. She's the blonde woman. But this movie, I think it's so sweet, and I think it has so much to say about just the direction of life and persevering through the line that we're going into. You know what I mean? Just something that, I guess, when looking at it in a general sense, it's kind of like they say in the movie, like time travel cannot cure everything. Like his dad tries to tell him at the beginning. And I think that we as people just spend so much time trying to fix things and not be ourselves. And in these kind of situations that it's, I think, fun to see that he realizes by the end that that's really what counts, as being yourself and not trying to make situations what you think they should be or what everyone else expects them to be. And I just think that's really fun and sweet in this movie, and I really like it.
Yeah, this movie is deranged and how much it makes me cry, particularly obviously the stuff between McAdams and Gleason is fantastic, and I think it's Richard Curtis's best work, because I mean that stuff with Gleason and Bill Nye, you guys, is
oh my God.
I mean, my God, that's just heartbreaking. And someone that's really like close with their dad. Like I try not to watch this movie way too much because, like, Sophia and Tyler know, like, I don't want to think about that. But it's so well done too. It's I think Curtis, he almost has like his pulse on the genre, whether it's For Weddings and a Funeral or Notting Hill or Love Actually. He's or even Yesterday that came out a couple of years ago. He's always meddled in the genre, but I think that the reason why this one works so well, it's because it feels really personal, and it feels it feels much more different than it's not just about the boy and the girl falling in love. It is about also the idea of the time. I mean, like literally the definition of this movie is about time. So about the time that he's spending falling in love, but also, probably one of the first loves that any of us have in this world is the love for our parent, and the love of the connection that the two of them have because of this time traveling sort of secret that these men have. That's sort of the MacGuffin of the film. And I think the other thing that's like really terrifying, it's the sequence where is it like he's helping is it his brother or is it his sister or somebody that to not die or something?
Oh, his sister.
His sister.
Kit Kat.
And in doing so, he loses his child, right? And then there's like a different. It's horrifying. Absolutely,
this movie has
horrifying.
No sympathy for your feelings.
No,
like
it really.
You feel like you've gotten the hell beat out of you.
Yeah, it's like, a lot to process. Like sort of like, and it's actually one of like. We talk about like we live in a world where so many movies deal with time travel and multiverses and all this crap, and no movie really has ever had to like has the goal to like put that in a movie and be like, you know what, keep fucking with this stuff, then you're gonna lose something that's really precious to you. Mm-hmm. And I think that scene at the end when he's holding his dad's hand as a child at the beach one last time is. Richard Curtis is like on like fuck that guy. It's so good, but it's also like god damn it, like you just it's gonna break your heart. But it's I mean it was definitely, if we had like a 6 through 10, it would have been around that sort of honorable mention area there too.
Yeah, it's my favorite Richard Curtis movie. I love that Rachel McAdams gave me permission to wear a wedding dress that's not white. I love the wedding in the movie. I love her dress and how it's all styled, and just the rain and how it doesn't matter to them because they're so in love, and it just like adds more to it. Even I go to London for work sometimes and I listen to this soundtrack every time I go because it just like, I don't know. I love how London is captured in it. I love Vanessa Kirby in it. She's amazing. So yeah, I love that you picked this.
Great movie. My number 2 was Something's Gotta Give. So we are at our number ones, and I think Sophia, because I know my friend Sophia Ciminello, I think we might have the same number 1, but could be wrong.
We do not. I know what you're gonna pick, and it's in my honorable mentions. I love it so much, but I wanted to recommend something different here for my number 1. Right. So when you talk about it, I will definitely add to the conversation because I do love it a lot.
I know what your true number 1 is then, if that's the case.
Well, it might surprise you. Okay. My number 1 here. So I put it in conversation with Bringing Up Baby and the Philadelphia Story as sort of this Cary Grant trilogy, Trinity, that type of thing. And I love Leo McCarey's The Awful Truth. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is my favorite romantic comedy that I would say doesn't get enough credit. So I was really tempted here to do Broadcast News. I really wanted to do When Harry Met Sally because my list felt sort of incomplete without some of those that I love. But I feel like those, for me at least, like I've given them a lot of credit over the years. And this one is one that I keep coming back to, and I have kept coming back to really throughout the past couple of years a lot, like very frequently. This was a COVID comfort movie for me. So Irene Dunn, who also, like, people don't talk about her in the same way that people talk about Barbara Stanwyck or Greta Garbo or some of these other actresses from the time period, and she absolutely deserves to be spoken about in the same sorts of conversations. She, before this movie, had played these sorts of heroines. She'd been in dramas, but she hadn't really gotten to show off her comedic talent before this movie. And here she really, really transcends. I mean, she is just a star. It's so funny too, because she preferred melodramas like most actresses of the time, because they thought, that's how you're taken seriously. That's what serious actresses do. But she is a goddamn delight as a comedian, and truly I think one of the forgotten almost like screwball talents. Like she makes this entrance in fur and sparkles, and she has this great attitude. And the movie itself, it's only 90 minutes, and it's this great divorce comedy between her and Cary Grant, where they have effectively 90 minutes like throughout the course of the movie to make their divorce final and decide if they want to go through with that. And throughout the movie, each person has like their, like she has a new guy, he is this new girl, Dixie Belle Lee, he's at this like on a date with her at the club, and then he has another girl, and you just know throughout these other dalliances that they have that they're meant to be together. And it is just like seeing these two stars. They have so much chemistry, and it's so wonderful. I love it so much. So I wanted to put that at my number one because, again, I don't think people talk about it enough, and I think it's a perfect movie. So The Awful Truth. But also watch Bringing Up Baby and The Philadelphia Story for a perfect Cary Grant triple feature.
Like a Cary Grant weekend.
Yes. He's the king of the genre.
He really is. And he also is one of those, like, I mean, we know him to be sort of, you know, he can be the rough guy if you want, but he also, I think where he excels as an actor for me, as sort of the classic actors, is being able to not take himself so damn seriously at times. And he's a really great physical comedian. I don't think we talk about that nearly enough with Cary Grant. I think people talk about him just because like a pretty boy, or sort of, you know, like a classic Hollywood, or, you know, like he's sort of one of the archetypes for, like, you know, who Clooney aspires to be or something like that, you know, when you bring him up. But like really one of the funnier guys like you're ever going to see, and also working really a lot with wonderful actresses, and we're able to just sort of, you know, give them more of the spotlight a lot of the times, and be able to play secondary in a lot of those scenes too, while also getting obviously his laughs. But yeah, that movie is incredible. Like
it's so good.
That's so good. I mean, like,
yeah,
there's a reason why the genre was kind of created around those molds, and those studios sort of created, you know, they had their stars and they put them in these properties, these wicked smart scripts, and that just had this dialogue that just moved at that kind of pace, and we just don't have that anymore. And so it's
and he let them improv, like, and there's so much physical comedy in it. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's also in the Criterion Collection. You can get all three of them there.
Yes,
go get them on the next sale. There's a 30% off sale right now if you want to go on the website and go get it. So Tyler, you're number one.
So mine, I'm going to do a quick sidestep on my number one, just for a quick television thing, since I'm TV editor. I just wanted to give a special shout out to the series Crazy Ex-Girlfriend for being one of my all-time favorites. It's a beautiful romantic comedy. Every episode is full of laughs, full of great songs, great original songs. And I just wanted to highlight that real quick.
All right.
But to get to my favorite rom-com film, this is a movie I've seen so many times, like a true endless amount of times. My dad used to have a VHS player when I was young, and this was one of the only like VHSs we had, so he was obsessed with it. I've seen it many times. So my number one is Notting Hill. It's a movie, I mean, it's probably one of the most picked ones. I do not care. I love this movie. I love Julia Roberts. I love Julia Roberts' teeth. I love Grant.
Yes.
I love this movie. I remember watching it sometimes 3 times a weekend. Like every weekend I would be with him, just watching it with him, watching it without him. It did not matter. I think it's so interesting to look at that kind of story now, the story of a celebrity meeting someone who does not have that status and falling for them in a way that shows them how regular people live. And I really think about that scene a lot, where she goes to they go to dinner with his family, and she really, just the way the camera moves around the dinner table, and you can see her reactions to these people just talking, living a normal life. And the empathy levels of this movie are just off the chart to me. Like, you can truly feel how she's feeling, how he's feeling. And as another highlight, I just want to say, his roommate in that movie is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. It makes me laugh so hard. When he like has the goggles on, I think, instead of his glasses, like that shit makes me laugh. So, so yeah, Notting Hill is my number one because, and I mean, obviously, it has one of the best lines of all time. The "I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy." So, I mean, what more could you ask for? So that's my number one.
Haven't seen it in a long time. Um, but I remember liking it. Thought it was a good movie.
It's good.
Movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Julia in it. I think
Oh,
she's fantastic.
she's so fabulous to me. I could literally, she's another actress I could watch anything with, but I think this movie might have started that for me, to be honest with you.
And Hugh Grant, really good. I think he really works well with Richard Curtis. I mean, he's probably my favorite thing about Love Actually, a movie I'm not like the biggest fan of and don't really like. And then like he's really great here. And then Four Weddings and a Funeral obviously is like where he really comes into the fold and we really get to know him a lot. And that's where he becomes a star. And I think he's really good in that movie. I think that movie is really good too. So it's a great pick. It's a great pick, Tyler. My number one. Sometimes you just got to go with an obvious pick at number one, and I know I go with the obvious pick sometimes, but also too, you know what? They're just you got a 5-star classic sitting right in front of you, and no one else has talked about it. Somebody and my friend Sophia penalty boxed it.
I'm ready.
Take it. My number one is When Harry Met Sally. I mean, it's a perfect movie. It's 5-star. I mean, we could just end the show right now. We don't even need to say anything more. No, I think this is like a movie for me. This movie is exactly when I started talking about the criteria or sort of like the trappings of a genre, of this genre in particular. Two movie stars, Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, who are absolutely fantastic, that are carried. I mean, they do a great job in the film, but they are carried by a marvelous script from Nora Ephron. I mean, another sort of staple in the genre, her and Nancy.
Yeah.
Just next level.
Just next level stuff. And Rob Reiner, Rob Reiner kind of feels like a joke. You know what I mean? Now as sort of a director and mostly he's like a political presence more than anything else. But during this time, Rob Reiner was probably on the biggest hot streak that any director has probably ever had outside of like somebody like Francis Ford Coppola in the 70s, because like, he comes on the scene with like Spinal Tap, and this is Spinal Tap, which is an all-time great comedy and truly hilarious. He makes kind of an underrated film in The Sure Thing, which I like, and then he does Stand by Me, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men, and The American President. If you retire right there, I think you've pretty much got a perfect career. And this is I love A Few Good Men. Another, again, Rob Reiner working with somebody who really knows how to write. That really kind of helps him. But also being a good enough director to just really allow the actors to do their thing, the script to speak for itself. The movie is wickedly funny. It's sort of the template for every romantic comedy that has come in the modern era in a lot of ways. Outside of like Nancy films, but like, but they all feel very akin to each other, as well too, Nora and Nancy, because they are the queens of the genre. And, Nora Ephron is someone that, I mean, she also wrote, Sleepless in Seattle, and, she did You Got Mail, and she's done a ton of movies in this genre, but this one in particular, it's so great because you get the perspectives of both of these characters. You get both Sally and Harry, and it's not one person dominated over the other. You really get to feel the sense of time that this budding friendship that turns into a friendship, that turns into a romance, that turns into a breakup, that turns into then an ultimate romance by the end. Rob Reiner being kind of a really smart director to do that, those interviews spliced throughout the film of these couples, and then kind of have it culminate with theirs at the end in their story. It's very sentimental. It's heartbreaking. It's beautiful. It makes you kind of cry at the end. That New Year scene, it's one of the two best movie scenes of all time that involve New Year's. That and Phantom Thread. And I think that it's so great. And there's like my favorite scene in the film is Meg Ryan. It's not the diner scene. Everybody always goes to the diner scene, you know what I mean? Because that's just like the easiest one. The one where Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal are trying to find this gift, and they start singing like Surrey with the Fringe on Top. And it's just like these two actors that giving so much to each other, and it feels yet so effortless for both of them to be that kind of hot and relatable and down to earth, and just it's like fireworks in that scene. And also
emphasis on hot.
Yeah. And shout out also to Carrie Fisher, who has a supporting role in this performance. It's absolutely hilarious as well. Perfect movie. I don't think if you don't like When Harry Met Sally, we have a major problem, because like I don't know anyone that doesn't like this movie. And if you don't like this movie, you got to reevaluate yourself. Maybe you got to go rewatch it. Maybe you got to go find your God. I don't know what you got to do, because like this is like one of those like top 50 movies of all time for me, period, end of story. I love this movie so much.
10 out of 10, no notes. It's the number one. It's the greatest romantic comedy of all time. It's perfect. Nora Ephron. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. Like she is one of the queens of the genre. She might be the queen of the genre. Just
I miss her a lot.
Did.
I really do.
I do too. And she reinvented the romantic comedy. I mean, if you look at, you can basically go from It Happened One Night to When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
That's sort of how long it took for that to happen, really. Yeah. I mean, little changes happened throughout, of course, but she really did create the modern romantic comedy as we know it today. It's perfect. Also, I love Meg Ryan's New Year's dress. It's amazing. And her hair. Oh,
her hair.
And all the sweaters. Oh my gosh, all the sweaters in that movie are so...
Oh my god, all Billy Crystal sweaters in that damn movie. Good lord.
I'm not going to watch Halloween movies this October. I'm going to watch When Harry Met Sally for 31 days straight in October.
Thank you. That's the correct statement.
Romance isn't dead.
So you're going to get like, now you're going to get like horror Twitter after your ass for saying something like that.
Listen,
that's
Elizabeth Olsen Twitter is still on my ass, and I do not care. Bring it on.
Is that show even out yet?
That show is out, and for any Elizabeth Olsen stands listening, it's terrible. I'll see you in my inbox.
At Tyler M. Doster on Twitter.
Period. Thank you. You can quote tweet me or DM me. I will see it and I will laugh. It's very funny.
That's our top 5 romantic comedies. Go watch all those. Go see Book Club 2. Take your mom to the theaters. I know by the time you're listening to this, Mother's Day is already passed, but you should still go to the theaters with your parents. Go see it with your mom. Also, go see Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Another great movie you can take your mom to as well. Not just dad cinema out there all the time and all this Tom Cruise business going on. You know what I mean? Movies for mom. So, Sophia, can you tell everybody out there where they can find you and all your work, as well as I'm going to throw in one thing. We all know that Nancy Meyers is seemingly trying to get back into the game, right? So who is your dream actor you'd love to see Nancy work with?
Oh my God. Whoa.
I have an instant answer. I'm ready for this. Keep going though.
Oh my God. You asked me so quickly. Wow. Okay. Before I get to that, yes, mom cinema. Love mom cinema. Better than dad cinema, really, for me. But you can find me on Twitter at Sophia_Sim. Same with Letterboxd, where I tweet about mom and grandmother cinema frequently, including old Hollywood, like I mentioned today. And you can find my reviews on AwardsWatch. I have one coming on The Little Mermaid when that embargo lifts, which I'm very excited for.
It'll be part of our world. Yeah.
Actors I want Nancy Meyers to work with. This is so tough. Okay, I had a really, really weird first thought. Not weird, but I just started thinking about like younger men who I would want in her movies. Steven Yeun, I would love him in a rom-com. And Anders Danielson Lee from The Worst Person in the World and Bergman Island. I feel like he would be great in a Nancy movie. But I mean, my more obvious, like older person answer, bring Daniel Day-Lewis out of retirement, Nancy.
Let's do it. DDL,
Let's
stand
do it.
up.
DDL.
He's been cobbling those shoes for a reason, because it's going to be about like a shoemaker falls in love with his client or something in the 14th century.
He has been in the kitchens preparing for this moment. I need him to come
mushroom
back.
omelets.
Yeah, exactly.
You should DM his son on Instagram and tell him that we have
oh my God.
proposition.
Gabriel with his like conservative movies he's making now. No, I can't do that.
Oh, yikes. Oh, we'll talk about that later. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that off air. Good Lord. Tyler, where can we find you, and who would you like to see Nancy partner up with?
You can find me on Twitter at Tyler M. Doster, and you can find all of my work at AwardsWatch.com, where we have lots of Emmy coverage happening right now and coming out. The immediate answer that popped into my head for a Nancy Meyers movie would be Brian Tyree Henry.
Oh, I love that too. Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think he is so not just handsome, he's a great actor. He brings a level of empathy to his roles, and he just has really beautiful eyes to me. I think he'd be fabulous in one.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at McQuade77. You can find my work here at Awards Watch, Playlist, In Session Film, Film Speak, all the other places. I've been on record saying that Jennifer Lawrence is the person I want to see work with Nancy Meyers. Really, I think that would work. If I was gonna say somebody on the male side, I mean, honestly, I think Chris Pine would be really great with her. Like, he's obviously a dreamboat, but then like he's really great at comedy and not taking himself so seriously, but he's also absolutely gorgeous. Would love to see him like in like a sort of a Jude Law sort of role where he's like, you know, just a very supportive guy. You know what I mean? You know, if she was, I mean, gosh, if she was going to work with somebody older, I mean, you know, her working with Jane Fonda would be absolutely fantastic, because like how many, you know, like Jane rules and everything, but like she's worked with Diane, and she's worked with De Niro, and she's worked with Jack. So, and I think of Jane Fonda as like one of the great actresses we still have around. I mean, there's just so many people she could work. I mean, like her working with Meryl was perfect, and it's complicated.
Leslie Manville.
Ooh,
I like that.
I like that one too. I like Leslie Manville a lot.
Honestly, I would love to see her work again with Frances and give her like a lead opportunity. You know, trying to think of some other. I mean, could you imagine if Nancy Meyers had Dev Patel in a movie? Like, yeah.
No, I can't. We don't need to talk about that.
To go refill my water.
It got really hot in here. I mean, like, just talk about like Dev Patel being like the Keanu Reeves character in Something's Gotta Give. I mean,
I'm sweating.
I mean, I'm
already there.
Dev Patel, Jennifer Lawrence, hot people, put them in your fucking movies. That's all I gotta say. And Nancy's does that. And so also, whatever she wants, give her the budget. I'm gonna keep saying it until they do it. Give her the money. She's earned it. So with that, that's gonna be this week's show. Next week we will be back talking about a completely different genre. We're not doing dad movies next week. We're not doing mom movies next week. We're doing family movies next week. We're talking about Fast X and the Fast and Furious franchise next week. Tyler's face says it all. So with that, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.